Today on Cryptic Mass Guitar, we do a comparison between the wrong guitar and the Gibson Les Paul Custom 1959 VOS. This is the Epiphone Les Paul Standard 50s. I'll explain the wrong guitar comment. So yes, I 100% understand that there's a 1959 Epiphone Les Paul Custom / inspired by Gibson Custom or whatever they call it. Still with veneers and poly and all that stuff, so you save a lot of money. But I'm renting this guitar, and that guitar is not available to rent, and I don't want to buy that guitar just to make one video. That makes no sense to me. Also, I know I'm going to be upsetting some people. It's just Epiphone versus any other guitar. For some reason, people just, implode on themselves. I do have to state, it's going to bother people, that this is a $900 guitar in Canada, and in Canada, this is $9,000. You could buy 10 of these for the same price as this. I don't know, just hit the thumbs down button if you get triggered. But as I say in all of these videos, YouTube videos are fantastic. It's a great way of actually seeing guitars that you might be interested in purchasing, albeit it's in someone else's hands with someone else's amp choices, setting choices, tuning choices, and even what they're going to play, they've decided, not you. So you can't really reach through the screen and play it for yourself, so don't use YouTube videos for the sole deciding factor as to why you're buying a guitar. It may look cool in someone else's hands, not me, I'm not cool, but the best way to actually decide if the guitar is right for you is to actually play it. While you're in the store, play a whole bunch of other guitars, because you never know which one's going to really speak to you. But I do have 5 sound samples for you today in 5 different tunings with 5 different amps, and the last one is a full-on metal sound sample. So that's it for all the different sound samples for this comparison. So I generally like to do two other things for these videos, which is quickly go over the specs. We're going to do bare bones, and then I'm going to tell you my thoughts on both of these guitars. I do have to state that I'll leave a link in the description. I went through a way more in-depth differences video where I actually like take the covers off the back, show you the capacitor, show you the wiring, show you the tuners up close, all of that different stuff, and that's really going to give you a lot more information than what I'm going to give you right now. But again, I'll leave a link in the description. But we'll go over the spec differences very quickly, and then I'll tell you what I think of the guitars. So both guitars have slab mahogany bodies with carved maple tops on them, neither of which are weight relieved. So that means the only routings or channels that are actually in the mahogany before they put the carved maple top on top of it would be the routings for the control cavities on the back and the control cavity for the toggle switch, and the stuff that you can't see here would be the routings for the pickups, and then a little channel for the wiring to go in for the pickups and then to the three-way toggle switch. Obviously we have polyurethane here on the Epiphone, and we have the Gibson VOS vintage patina nitrocellulose finish, which is just a little thinner than the Gibson USA. I don't want to get into VOS because that'll really annoy some people, because Gibson changed what it means more than, you know, Epiphone versus any other guitar brand. The Epiphone has a veneer on the front, so that's actually to hide how many pieces of maple and what the maple actually looks like. And the back looks nice here, doesn't it? That's also a veneer. That's to hide what the wood actually looks like and how many pieces are on the guitar. So how many pieces of mahogany are glued together before they cut out the shape of the guitar. This one here you can actually see on the bottom. It's hard to show on video. It's 3. The Gibson Custom here has a highly figured Flame maple top, absolutely ridiculous. This is real maple, and it's 2 pieces. The back is a real, full, lightweight mahogany body. There's no veneer here. So it is weighed, so you're paying someone to actually weigh and grade all of the wood. And they actually use aniline dye on the back and on the neck here to create that deep, beautiful color. Now, if that bothers you that the Epiphone has 3 pieces, the Epiphone Les Paul Standard 60s that I rented actually had 4. If that bothers you that they use veneers on the front or the back or solid colors to hide all of that, just know that they do that because they don't have to pay anybody to grade their wood, because they hide what their wood looks like and how many pieces. So that just takes that amount of money out of the guitar. Both guitars have mahogany necks. The neck carve here on the standard 50s is a 59 medium C, whereas the 59 has a 59 medium C neck. They're not the same neck. This has a little more girth to it. It's a little more 3D feeling than the Epiphone here. The Epiphone, I would just call this a medium C, so somewhere in between slim taper and the 50s vintage. Very comfortable neck though. The Epiphone here has a joint to bring the neck into the body. Also has a long neck tenon. I don't know if that's just because of the joint here. We also have a scarf joint at the top where they attach the headstock. The Gibson Custom here is a single piece mahogany neck with a long neck tenon. We have a laurel fretboard on the Epiphone and a rosewood fretboard on the Gibson Custom. On the front of the headstocks where you're going to find the inlaid logos and the silk screened Les Paul model logos. The Epiphone here has that 3-screw standard truss rod cover, whereas the Gibson Custom has like a sourced, historic blank truss rod cover with the 2 screws. The screws are also aged. That means you're paying for that. On the back of the headstocks where you're going to find the tuners. So you have the Epiphone Vintage Deluxe tuners. They're still modern sizing on the Epiphone, whereas the Gibson Custom has the Kluson Vintage Deluxe tuners, also vintage sizing. So what that means is if for some reason you wanted to swap out to locking tuners on either of these guitars, you would have to drill pilot holes in the back here for the screws to hold them into the back of the headstock, but you wouldn't have to ream out or widen the holes on the Epiphone, whereas the holes for the vintage size tuner, they're smaller, so you can't fit them through. It means you have to actually widen the holes. For pickups, the Epiphone has the Epiphone Pro Bucker 2 in the bridge, the Epiphone Pro Bucker 1 in the neck, and the Gibson Custom has the custom buckers in the bridge and the neck. The custom buckers are Alnico 3, whereas the Pro buckers here are Alnico 2. The Epiphone has CTS potentiometers. They're soldered, but they're connected to the pickups via a quick connect, which is a little weird. This has 50s wiring along with Mallory capacitors. The Gibson Custom has CTS audio taper potentiometers, Gibson branded, but as well we have fully hand soldered and extremely ridiculously cleanly done. We also have Lux, that's the brand that makes them, the company that makes them, Lux paper and oil capacitors. So they're like Black Beauty recreations. They're now available on Gibson.com, which is fantastic because really tracking down some of those Bumblebee capacitors in the past were an absolute nightmare. And sometimes you'd be paying $200-300 just for a capacitor. They're not that much. And as far as bridges, the Epiphone has the Epiphone Locktone bridge, which I will state is metric sizing for the simple fact that these don't have the greatest reputations for almost anything. Although yours might be fantastic, that is absolutely wonderful. But whenever I get asked what's the right sizing for replacement, it's metric. If your guitar was made in the USA, it's imperial, but it's not made in the USA, so metric. The Gibson Custom has the ABR1. It is also drilled directly into the body, which is a point of contention for a lot of Gibson USA Les Paul Standard 50s and 60s owners because those have that metal doweling system like this, where it's screwed into like a bushing into the body, whereas this is drilled directly into the body. That's really only available on historic reissues through the custom shop and some Gibson USA ES 335s and I think 339s. So that's really all I want to go through for the specs, even though that is quite a bit. But it's at this point in the video where I like to talk about my thoughts on both of these guitars, and I have to tell you, I own this, so I paid $9,000 of my hard-earned money. So keep that highly in mind. $9,000 is a ridiculous amount for a guitar. And I've rented the Epiphone. I would not buy the Epiphone, but I do have to state this is the best Epiphone guitar that I've ever played. The pickups in here are very, very nice. They have a little bit of that treble boost, but it's not too much of a treble boost, where, you know, like you're losing the top 3 strings here, like you do on the 60s, but they're highly usable. So you can get through no problem, and you might actually like them in like a sound sample comparison, in comparison to the Gibson Custom, because it has that little bit of a treble boost, whereas the Epiphone, or say the Gibson Custom, has like a sweeter top end. So there's a little bit of a difference. Most people, if they hear a little bit more treble, they'll enjoy it more. The fact that this has 50s wiring, whereas the Gibson USA does not, is almost criminal. I understand why they do it, but the fact that if you're a player that actually uses the tone or the volume in the tone, that's really going to help you out, because it makes the guitar like it's less dark when you darken the volume. And if you turn down the volume, if you start actually turning down your tone, you start to lose a little bit of volume, like very, very little, but it'll actually help you clean up a dirty signal in certain situations. And the Gibson Custom here is not my favorite guitar that I own. It's probably like number 3. It's really hard to narrow that down most days of the week. My 1958 is my favorite, for sure, every single time. Then my 57, or this, or the 60. But this rotates around number 2 and number 3 all the time. So what do you think I'm going to say about this guitar? This is still a guitar. Don't get that confused. I'm not saying that whatsoever, but I'm extremely happy that I own this guitar, and it plays very, 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 very well. And this is one of the reasons why I'm getting rid of my Gibson USAs. So it's really a lot of money to spend on a guitar, and I realize that absolutely every day, but it just plays so well. And I connect with these guitars a lot more than I do with the Gibson USAs or the Epiphone. But again, that's me. That doesn't make me, I don't think that I'm any more special than anyone else or better than anyone else because of that. No, I think that's actually kind of stupid. And I avoided playing historic reissues for like 30 years because I knew if I touched it and it's what they're supposed to be, I would be in a lot of financial trouble because I would want to buy the custom shops instead of regular guitars, and those are super expensive. You could buy 10 of these for this. Remember that. Thanks for watching.